friends. Welcome to Story Behind Podcast. This is the show for people who love hearing a good story and who believe the world could use more positivity. We're the team behind GodUpdates and God2, and we hope these weekly short stories will brighten your day.
Family gives heartbreaking update on dog that waited 7 years for owner who died to return. Written by Mel Johnson, read by Adam State. Rufus was a loyal dog that waited for his owner, John, to return. In fact, the sweet pup spent 7 years waiting for John. The problem, though, was that Rufus's favorite human had died. But now, the family believes these two pals have been reunited in heaven. Make sure you've got tissues handy for this inspirational short story. Linda Crochet's dad, John, adopted Rufus as a puppy, and Rufus quickly became the retired man's furry best friend. Though John and his wife Teresa had many dogs over the years, Rufus was one of the best they've ever had. Quickly became John's shadow. Whether enjoying the outdoors or working on cars in John's shop behind the house, the two were rarely apart. Rufus loved to run in the ponds with Dad when he was checking traps, Linda recalled. He was a natural hunting dog and loved to chase anything that moved out there. Raccoons, possums, snakes, and even skunks. Dad would laugh watching Rufus gallop through these ponds. On the rare occasions when John had to go somewhere Rufus couldn't follow, he wasn't gone long, and Rufus developed a habit of lying down on the same spot in the driveway each time, where he could face the road and eagerly wait for John's return. Since Dad was retired, he normally wasn't gone for very long periods of time, Linda explained. Rufus knew he'd be right back, so he waited patiently in that one particular spot. Sadly, in 2016, Linda's dad suffered a heart attack. Doctors discovered an extremely rare anomaly of the heart, which got in the way of his recovery. After some time in the ICU, John passed away. Dad was taken by ambulance the night of his heart attack and never returned. He passed away 17 days later, Linda said. Of course, there was no way to explain this to Rufus. And though Linda says she knows Rufus sensed something was wrong, he took up his usual spot in the driveway. There, the loyal dog waited for his owner to return. As time went by, Rufus continued his vigil. Day after day, he took up residence in his usual spot in the driveway and waited for John to come home. It became his daily routine, one that carried on for years. And when Linda shared a video of Rufus's relentless watch, it quickly went viral. Despite never losing hope that his favorite human would one day return home, Linda says Rufus still lived a good life after John's death. For starters, he still had his mom, John's wife, Teresa, whom he loved very much, and he still got plenty of visitors, belly rubs, and playtime. He would still make his usual rounds in the yard and in the ponds, Linda explained, but always made his way back to that spot to wait. Rufus was well cared for, but he missed Dad. It was heartbreaking at times to see him waiting. Some folks commenting on the viral video about the dog that waited for his owner suggested Linda and the family should have taken Rufus to John's funeral for closure. And while Linda appreciates this as a great suggestion, she said that in the family's time of grief, it's just not something they considered. Whether it would have changed Rufus's routine or not, we just don't know, she said. But his story reminds us to hug and appreciate our dogs every day. They are truly man's best friend. Though the dog waited for his owner year after year, Rufus continued living his life too. He still experienced plenty of joy and love. His daily vigil for John simply became a part of his routine. He knows Dad is gone, but he still watches, just in case, Linda said in an update. Rufus kept watch until he reached the age of 12. Then, it was his turn to depart from this world. We believe he died of natural causes, from old age, Linda explained. We were devastated. His mom, Teresa, misses him so much. However, the family did find a silver lining amidst the gut-wrenching loss of Rufus. We believe he's now united with Dad, Linda said. Some stated that Dad finally came to get Rufus in his truck. I like that. I believe if there are ponds in heaven, Rufus is playing in one while Dad looks on. Laughing, of course. Our pets truly are a blessing from God. They are truly special for our angels on loan to us from heaven. And may the undying devotion of the dog that waited for his owner, who died, remind you of God's unwavering love for you. It's that kind of an unconditional love that can come from an animal. Imagine the magnitude of love that can come from God. Please be sure to share this story with anyone who could use a reminder that they are loved. Mom alerts parents to sensory water beads warning after her precious baby girl nearly died. Written by Adam Staten, read by Adam Staten. One woman in Pennsylvania is using a frightening incident involving water beads and her child to warn and inform other parents. Anyone who has had small children understands they all possess a curious nature. Children enjoy crawling around, feeling and touching anything and everything within their grasp. Once children reach out, grab, and firmly secure an object, the item's next location will be the child's mouth. It's a fact that children put or will attempt to put everything in their mouths. For Whitney Reese, this truth made for a horrifying and terrifying reality for her and her husband, according to Fox News. Unbeknownst to them, their daughter had swallowed water beads. I truly can't emphasize how dangerous these water beads are to kids, babies, even pets, Whitney said. The scary situation began when the couple noticed that their infant daughter, Harper Reese, had developed a rash all over her body late last year. But Harper's condition only continued to deteriorate. The infant started throwing up wildly, which caused the parents to rush the child to the hospital. Unfortunately for the Reese family, Harper appeared to get even worse. Fox News reports that little Harper's abdomen started swelling and her energy level was non-existent. While in the hospital, medical professionals were stumped as to what was responsible for her condition. Doctors believed that instead of an intestinal blockage, Harper was suffering from a virus. Days later, the child did pass a water bead. Doctors then determined that Harper had at least one more in her system. The child, who had turned 1 year old on New Year's Day 2023, underwent surgery to remove the other water bead. She was released from the hospital weeks later. After having a bowel resection and all the inflammation and edema the water beads caused, her bowels were still very irritated, Whitney said. Water beads were initially used as agricultural products intended to maintain soil moisture, according to Poison.org. Other uses for water beads include use by florists to keep a beautiful floral arrangement hydrated, and as therapy toys for children with sensory processing or autism spectrum disorders, according to the site. Poison.org states that if swallowed, the water beads can expand and possibly cause serious and sometimes life-threatening intestinal blockage. See that you don't despise one of these little ones, for I tell you that in heaven their angels always see the face of my Father who is in heaven. Matthew 18:10.
Thank you so much for listening to Story Behind Podcast. We're really glad you joined us for this week's story. To see photos and videos that may have been referenced in this episode, check out the links in the show notes. And if you enjoyed what you heard today, subscribe to our podcast, and please tell a friend about us. We'd also love it if you'd rate us and leave us a review. It really does help more people find us. Story Behind is a Salem Web Network production.